Welcome to The Localist, a conversation with local businesses. Welcome to The Localist, a conversation with local makers and independent entrepreneurs. I'm your host, former small business owner and author of the Localist book, Carrie Rollwagen. So today I want to talk about what do you do when you feel like you're kind of on a hamster wheel at work. Now, this often happens if you're working for somebody else and you're kind of like, am I in the right position? Am I in the right career? What am I doing? I'm kind of doing the same thing every single day. But I think this happens for business owners too, because a lot of times we get so in the weeds and so wrapped up in the actual minutia and to-do lists and taxes and all of the things that are not like the thing that we actually want to be doing with our life, that sometimes we just think wait, am I where I want to be? Is this the direction I want to go in? There's a book called Designing Your New Work Life that I think is actually super helpful. I'm going to talk through an exercise today that they have in the book, but there are a lot of other exercises in the book too. One of the things that I really like about this book is that I think a lot of books that are about kind of changing your life and looking at your purpose and refocusing kind of tell you to kind of throw out the old, and they're saying find a new job, find a new business, move on, And this book doesn't necessarily say you shouldn't move on, but it's saying kind of start where you are and what are some things you can do in your current job, whether or not you're a business owner, whether or not you can control that. What are some things you do have control of that you can kind of tweak? And they say that you should kind of work on those first before you say let me throw all of this out and just move on to a new job. And I think that's a really good point, because I think when we do that and we just say I'm going to, kind of leave this career behind or leave this job behind and go to a new one, what often happens is in 2 or 3 years, we're hitting that same point again, because we really haven't dealt with a lot of the things that might come down to the way that we're working, or could be fixed by learning new management techniques and new techniques for communicating and kind of getting what we want differently. So I really like the premise of the whole book, and there are a ton of things in this book that I think will help whether or not you're a business owner or not. It's actually geared for people who aren't, so I think it can help you on either side though. But I really wanted to drill down into one exercise they really focus on today. And that's that they say, if you are thinking you're not getting where you want, or you're wondering if you're making a difference at all, in your career, but also just in the lives of the people around you, they say to look at kind of 3 things: what you're learning, who you're helping, and what you're building for the future. So I actually looked at this and I made a spreadsheet, a literal spreadsheet for myself, where I had these 3 things on it. And I also added something else as well that I will share. But this really helps me that at the end of every day, I tried to go in and fill this out, kind of what I'm learning, who I'm helping, and how I'm building for the future. Let's kind of break those down a little bit. One is what did I learn? I think a lot of us are like this, but I know I personally, don't really feel like I've had a fulfilling day, I guess, unless I'm learning something. And especially in my job, which is very much management right now, a lot of times, I'm telling other people what to do, or I'm kind of uh, outlining a process that's already made. And it can really feel I'm not learning anything. And that is not actually true. I learned this from my spreadsheet. The things we're learning and that we're counting toward this do not have to be huge things. This can be something I learned a new text expander shortcut or something to save time on my phone. Or it could be I learned about a new AI technique. Maybe it's not even something that I'm using. Maybe it's just something I found interesting. And I actually, to some extent, think those things are almost more important, because yes, the things we're learning for our particular job are important. And If we're learning those things, that's great. But it's also is like really good to remind myself that just as I go about my job, as I go about my day, I'm also just expanding my world. I'm expanding the things that I know about. So sometimes this thing I learned would be a work technique. Sometimes it would be something I learned about another business. Sometimes it's like something I heard on the news or some random fact somebody put in the company Slack channel. But just seeing this kind of just even if it's small things kind of helps you to know like I'm not really stuck. I am still learning and growing. And also just tracking this also shows us that that's an important thing in our lives and reminds us to learn more things. Some days I would look and say, I don't feel like I learned anything today. So I would go read a blog article so that I would learn something. And those were really good habits for me to build up. Okay, the next thing is like, who are you helping? So this is not really how they outline it in the book. What they say is like, what did I initiate? And I do think that is like an easier way to look at it when we're looking at work, because that is helping people, but helping people can feel kind of like, was this really helping them? Were they happy? All of that stuff. It kind of gets into soft skills and things that we can't necessarily control. But what did I initiate is something that we can control. And that is super helpful to say, like for me, I think it's something that was the easiest thing to write down because again, like I'm a manager, so I'm initiating everything. I never finish anything. I make other people do that. That's not really true, but I think sometimes that's how it feels. But still saying like I got the ball rolling on this project, or I communicated this to someone else, so they're able to build this. Like sometimes it is even more helpful when you're not able to carry all the way through to the end on things to see that you're still a key player because you're still starting things. You're kind of like planting seeds and having those grow. And so I think that is like another really helpful, like I love that they put this in kind of those things that you're looking at. So you're looking at like, what did you learn? And also, what did you initiate? So what is kind of growing because of you? And being able to look back at these things and see like, okay, all these projects wouldn't exist if I weren't here, is actually like really helpful in knowing that you are like growing you're helping the business grow, you're helping your career to grow too. Having this list of things you initiated can also be really helpful when you're planning on like doing your resume or writing a bio for your speaking events. Like being able to see all of these things that you were a key player in is super helpful. And then I do also like to say, like, who are we helping? Especially again, as a manager, I want to try to make sure that I'm trying to, I can assist a coworker or assist somebody else, and that can be super helpful too. And then the thing that I added that they don't have on this, but I just felt like it's important for me is who did I celebrate or praise? Now, this is helpful, I think, no matter what kind of job you do. I think, especially though, if you're an owner or a manager, we can get so in the weeds with like just really criticizing. And I don't think that's what we mean to be doing. We mean to just be like optimizing or helping people to see, this is the way it needs to be done, that kind of thing. But it can be really easy to forget to celebrate or praise somebody. And so I really enjoyed being able to like have that on my spreadsheet of saying like every day I'm going to try to do this. Now, not every day was like it's not like I sent a company email every single day to say like, "Hey everyone, let's like spotlight on this person. They're doing great." But something like if I would read a good article and then I could Slack that person and say, like, hey, you did a really nice job on this. Or sometimes I really like if I hear somebody compliment another team member, I like to try to let that team member know. And ideally, I'll let the team member and their boss know so that the team member knows not only did I see what they did, but also I'm making sure that their boss sees what they did, which can be obviously meaningful when it comes to reviews and things like that. So again, sometimes this was a big thing. Sometimes it's a small thing. Sometimes it's a note or just a Slack message or just telling somebody like, hey, you handled yourself well in that meeting. But looking at all of these things is really helpful. And I will admit, I don't keep up this spreadsheet all of the time, but it has been really helpful on those. We all get into a zone where we're like, you know, are we moving forward? Am I moving forward? Am I where I'm supposed to be? So when I'm in those zones, I tend to take like 2 weeks or a month and say, like, okay, I'm going to kind of hit this spreadsheet and remind myself that, yes, like I'm learning new things, I'm initiating new things, I'm helping people, and also I'm celebrating or praising people. So this is something that's been super helpful to me. And again, there are lots of other ideas like this in designing your new work life that I think makes it a really valuable book. Whether or not you're a business owner or especially for the people on your team, it can be really, really helpful. So thanks for listening today. The Localist podcast is written and produced by me, Carrie Rollwagen. We record right here at the Infomedia Studio, and also Infomedia Studios is our sponsor. So if you're interested in starting a podcast, starting a YouTube channel, or even if you just want to do some video content that you can carve up into social media clips, we want to help. So to get that started, you can head to infomedia.com, fill out the contact form, let us know what you need, and we'll be in touch. So the Localist podcast, like I said, is not just produced by me. We record here in the studios. Our showrunner is Taylor Davis. Our outreach manager is Jen Tucker. And Elena Davis is our outreach or our marketing manager. Until next time, here's to thinking global by acting local and putting small shops before big bucks.